Hello classmates, welcome back sa ating video, and in this video I'm going to continue the ancient civilizations. So in the first part of the discussion of the ancient civilizations, I presented to you the first three. I presented the Sumerian civilization, the next one is the Babylonian civilization, and then the Egyptian civilization. So let's have a quick review now before we continue on the other ancient civilizations. So when we talk about Sumerian civilizations, one of the greatest contribution of this civilization is the world's first writing system, which is the cuneiform. Okay? And then other important contributions. The Sumerian civilizations are also the ones who invented the trading system, and invented as well technologies like, for example, the sailboat, and then we also have the wheeling cart. For the Babylonian civilizations, one of their greatest contribution is what you call the concept of the hanging gardens, the walls of Babylon. What else? The belief, or let's say, for example, when we talk about science of omens, and the belief of what you call this one, for example, the lunar and then the solar eclipse, and other important contribution of the Babylonian civilization. And for the Egyptian, there's also a lot of important contribution. They have their own writing system, the hieroglyphics, the building of the pyramids, and that is served as a tomb or burial of pharaohs, and then as well as a great, or let's say, official or high rank Egyptians before. They also the first one who come out with the paper, which is the papyrus, made out of the Cyprus papyrus plant that is only growing along the Nile River, and other important contribution. So that's it for the three different first the first three ancient civilizations, although there are also other important contributions of those three. Now let us proceed with the other three. So I'm going to present to you this video, or I'm going to present to you in this discussion the Greek civilization. We also have the Chinese civilization, and then the other one is the Roman civilization. Okay, so Greek civilization, as we all know, when we talk about Greek, this civilization is considered to be the one of the smartest civilization, because they are the first one. They are the first one to actually separate the scientific ideas from superstition. Because if you observe from the Sumerian civilization going to Egyptian civilization, it is more of superstition. They believe on gods and then goddesses. But for Greek, they separated this idea of superstition and then the scientific ideas. They believe, or they are the first one to start the theories about the natural phenomena, or the natural event or natural occurrence, or what is happening around us. Okay? And we have here some examples of great thinkers before. So we have Thales of Miletus, and Thales of Miletus are considered to be the father of philosophy before, and he is the first one to say that, or thought that the nature was composed of, or it is convertible into water. Okay, so that is the argument of Thales of Miletus. And we also have Anaxagoras. Anaxagoras is the first one to argue that the matter was composed of countless tiny particles. Okay? And aside from Anaxagoras, we also have Empedocles. Empedocles stated that nature was a mix actually of 4 elements. So he's the first one who said that there are 4 elements. We have the earth, the fire, the air, and the water. So if you are looking at some reference, or if you're reading some books, or history books, some says that Aristotle is the first one who introduced actually the idea of the four elements. However, according to the Greek civilization or this ancient civilization history, it's actually Empedocles. Okay? And we also have Hippocrates. And Hippocrates is the first one to regard medicine as a science apart from religion. Okay? So you believe that medicine is actually separated to from this religion, or the concept of religion. And we also have Galen. And Galen is considered to be the first first person who studied human anatomy. Okay? However, the problem with Galen, Galen used not a human cadaver, but actually a cadaver of a chimpanzee, or a monkey. So there's a quiet argument towards this study of human anatomy of Galen. However, those are one of the great thinkers of the Greek civilization. As we all know, one of the greatest thinkers as well during this ancient civilization are probably Socrates, Plato, and then Aristotle. So Socrates is the teacher of Plato, and Plato is the teacher of Aristotle. And they are great philosophers. They are also great scientists, physicists, and as well as they study astronomy and mathematics, and as well as history. We also have Pythagoras. Pythagoras, who introduced the idea of Pythagorean theory, so more on mathematics. We have also Euclid and Archimedes, and so more on Euclid and Archimedes. Archimedes is actually the one who discovered the laws of the lever, and then the pulley that resulted in the invention of machine. That's why we already have the idea or the concept of the pulley and then lever system or lever concept during this time. We also have the first theory. Now, one of the popular first theory that was proposed during the ancient civilization by Greek, and then this is what we call the Earth is the center of the universe. And as you all know, when we talk about this theory, this is what we call the geocentric theory. And this was proposed by Ptolemy, and the first one is Ptolemy, and then this was supported by Aristotle, and then the other Greeks, or the other great thinkers. So in in the Ptolemy geocentric theory, and it only saying that the Earth is actually the center of the universe. However, as we go on to the other chapters, that is I think that is chapter 3, intellectual revolution, we're going to check out the difference of the geocentric theory of Ptolemy, and then there is also another version of Aristotle. So there is a different representation of this geocentric theory. But then, when we talk about the ancient civilization, the first one to postulate or to come up with the concept of the geocentric theory is no other than Ptolemy. And one of the invention also that was being popular, or being very popular during this time, is the invention of Plato, who used to wake up his student before. So if Egyptian civilization have what they call the clepsydra, or the water clock, for the Greek civilization, for Plato, come up also with what we call the first alarm clock. And it's also a water clock, but it is way more, the purpose is like similar to an alarm clock. So a water clock, but it is an alarm clock. So the first alarm clock that was made, and this was invented now by Plato. However, the idea actually, or the concept of the first alarm clock, was not from Plato, but one of the philosopher or thinker as well, which is Ctesippus. Yan. But this was only enhanced and then invented by Plato. Okay, so the first alarm clock was made out of water and then pebbles. And again, no, it's similar to it is also called as a water clock because it is made out of water. Okay, so this is now the water clock. And so if you can see, no, so this first tank is filled out of water, and the second tank will be again filled out with water, and then the water will overflow, and at this like a pan part of the second tank, and we're going to push the water. We're going to push now the pebbles, and the pebbles will fall down on this gong. Okay, so this is called the gong, and probably it will sound. Okay, so this is the first type of alarm clock. Well, this is one of the bases as well of the modern or the upcoming new type of, or a new version of alarm clocks. Okay, so that is the very first alarm clock. Alright, so aside from those invention, or aside from the water clock, Greek one, the Greek civilization is the first one also to introduce, no, the concept of the water mill. Okay, so as we all know, when we talk about water mill, this is used for agricultural processes, and they also have other important contributions like the like what they call the odometer. Okay, so if we have today the speedometer, before we have the odometer. So this is used to this is used before to measure, you know, the distance travel of a what you call it, of a old type of car. Okay, and we also have a central heating, so it's like a steam room, you know, before. So if we have a steaming room or steaming places during this time, before, we also have what they call the central heating. And the Greek one is the first one also to come up with the first thermometer. And they also draw maps, the concept of cranes and levers because of Archimedes, no, because he is the first one who discovered the law of these levers and then pulleys. And the wheelbarrow. Okay, so the wheelbarrow is a one-wheel transportation equipment before. Okay, cannons as well, or canyons. So they are the first one, no, to use the concept of, or come up with the concept of cannons. They used the concept of science, no, or physics before. So Ctesippus of Alexandria who come up with this concept. So Greek civilization have their own version also of cannons or canyons. So this is now the picture of the water mill. Okay, so that is used for agricultural process. And until now, no, we already have a this is still the traditional water mill, and we also have another what we call this one, the modern type of water mills. So this is the wheelbarrow. Okay, so basically it is used for carrying, no, tools, or maybe the harvested crops, now from the agricultural land. Okay, and cannons, right? So that's why Greek civilization is also one of the strongest civilizations before. And the use of, or the made out of armors and weapons, bow, we have the sword, spear, and that's it, no, so for the Greek civilization. So let's now proceed with the next civilization, which is the Roman civilization. Well, for Roman civilization, my dear classmates, one of their greatest contribution when you talk about this civilization is their way of writing, and their way of writings, or what they used, no, before. So they use a metal or stone tablets before, which is called as a gazettes, no? So gazettes are used to this is used, or this metal or stone tablets is used to write, no, let's say policies or announcement, no, or ordinances, and then it was actually published, no, and then displayed publicly. Okay, and It is also used for Roman civilization. Sorry, Roman civilization is the first one also to come up with what we call yung record keeping. Okay, so meron na tayong mga history books during this time. So historical events, legislative laws, and probably if you have heard about the term codex, yan, codex is the first type of record keeping book before, or let's say the history book. And the codex is very popular during this ancient time, no? And codex is very a very thick type of history book. And so that is where they write the historical events and other legislative laws. And we also have the what you call they term theoretical science before during the time of Roman civilization, which is actually nil, no, or describe it as nil or no importance. Why? So if you observe Roman civilization, Romans are not actually particular to science concept or scientific ideas before. Now, unlike the Greek civilization, that is, they are more on scientific theories, no, and other kinds of science concept, but not for Roman civilization. And they are more of what you call this one. They are more on writings, no, so record keeping, and also architecture and then engineering. And as you all know, Roman civilization or Romans have actually a very good concept of architecture. So I'm going to present to you one of their example existing building until now. No? So one of the greatest well known before also when you talk about Romans is their great leader, no? And as you all know, when you talk about Romans, we have their Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar is considered to be, no, one of the popular leader who led the Romans before. And this is now the gazettes. Okay, so it's a stone tablet or a metal tablet. And we also have the codex. Okay, so the codex is made out of, or the cover of the codex is actually a skin, no, skin of an animal. Yan. So it's made out of leather. Yan. And that is a very thick type of a history book. We also have a sample architecture of the Roman, no, the Colosseum. So as we all know, Colosseum is still existing until now. However, the parts of it is already been distorted. So that is one implication, no, of the architecture, also the architectural system of the Roman civilization, and other types of what you call tall walls, no, and then buildings, or infrastructure made out of the Roman civilization. When we talk about Roman civilization, one of their concepts also was, or most of their concepts, either science or mathematics, especially science, no, they are basing it actually from the Greek civilization. That's why they are more of they are, let's say, they have a replicated concept from the Greek civilization. So hindi masyado nagkakalayo actually yung concept ng Roman civilization from the Greek civilizations. So that's it for the Roman civilization, and let us now proceed on the last. There are still other important contribution. Well, I have said architecture, no? So architecture, we still have the concept of mathematics, and they are the first one to introduce, no, the Roman numerals that we have been studying in mathematics. And Roman numerals, as you all know, that is the representation of 1, 2, 3, 4 until 10, 11, and then 12. So until now, we have been using still these Roman numerals. Okay, so that is all enough for the Roman civilization. I have said there's not much actually with Roman civilization, because their basis now most of the time is actually from the Greek civilizations. Alright, so let us now let's proceed now to the last ancient civilization, which is the Chinese civilization. So Chinese civilization is well known as the Middle Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom that is usually found in the east of Asia. A Middle Kingdom, if you try to look at the map, no, they are usually, or basically, in the middle of this Asia, or let's say if you try to look at the globe, no, China, or the land of China is actually in the middle. Okay, so that's why it is Middle Kingdom, and it's considered to be the oldest civilization. Okay, oldest in the sense that they contributed a lot already, and they have very long, or they're reigning very long time already. Okay, and let's try to look at it. No, their different influences, or the different contribution that faces, or that shapes now our society during this time. The first one is they also have a trading system, and they are very rich before, because of what we call this one, the silk trade. Okay, so they are the first one to introduce the concept of the silk trade, and this silk was served as a bridge on the gap of westerns and then the Middle Kingdom. Okay, and that is actually a very good way of the Chinese civilization, or the Chinese, no, to reach out the other countries. And so silk trade was become very popular, and silk is very expensive before. Okay, and when you try to look at the discoveries during this time, and the oldest silk was actually found in Henan province, that is basically considered to be started during the starting, or the beginning of the settlements, which is the Neolithic era. Okay, so very old yung use of silk already. And silk is basically used for cultural or commercial and technological exchange for west and then east. Okay, and mind you, no, I have said silk is very expensive before, so the westerns are paying gold. No, same with the weight of the silk. So if that is a 1 kilogram silk, the payment is 1 kilogram gold. And so that is how expensive the silk before, because silk is used to used to come up with clothings, and other things that can be used, no. So that is an example of traditional, let's say for Japan, no, it is called as a kimono, but for Chinese, and they have the traditional clothing as well. Okay, so that is made out of silk. And we also have the first one who introduced the concept of alcohol. Yan. So there is considered to be a 2 alcohol makers in the Chinese legend. So Chinese, we have Yidi and then Dukang. That is still in the time of Shai dynasty. Okay. The beer before that was created by the Chinese civilization, or by the Chinese, or by Yidi and then Dukang, is very around not very strong, but not actually very light, no. So we have a content of at least 4 to 5% alcohol, and usually this beer is served as a spiritual offering. Okay, so spiritual offering, so it is used for as a serving, no, for maybe for the dead people. Okay, so that is the use, no, before. And later, Yidi and Dukang discovered that if they added more cooked grain, and then they will come up with a stronger type of alcohol before. Okay, so they come up with a stronger drinks, they come up with a stronger alcoholic beverages, and this time it is more than 11% alcohol. Okay, so again, Chinese civilization is believed to be the first one to come up or introduce now the concept of these alcoholic beverages. Although now going back to the Sumerian civilizations, they already have the what we call the beer brewing and then the fermentation, no. So in the Chinese civilization, Chinese also have their own version, which is more on alcoholic beverages, having a higher percentage of alcohol. Okay, so the alcohol is also known as jiu, okay, or jiu. Okay. And lately, no, after the discovery of the Chinese civilization of this alcohol, or the alcoholic beverages, during the 12th century, the Western country come up also with their own type of alcoholic beverage, but this time it is distilled alcohol. So Italy is the first one to come up with their own alcoholic beverage in the Western country. Okay, so last 2013 they discovered the 9,000-year-old pottery. Yan, again in the Henan, found in the Henan province, and that was believed to be 1,000 years before Arabian. Because in some history books as well, or some references, you can see or you can read that Arabian is considered to be one of the first who introduced as well or created an alcoholic beverages. But because of this new discovery, they credited again to Chinese civilization, the first one who created an alcoholic beverages, because of this 9,000-year-old pottery. Alright, so this is only a sample of picture, structure, just to present yung old way of creating the alcohol before. Yan. Aside from the alcohol, Chinese civilization is or Chinese is the first one as well who come up with the world's first mechanical clock. So if a while back the Greek is the first one who come up with the water clock, and then Egyptian come up with the clepsydra or water clock, for Chinese civilization the world first mechanical clock. So the first world mechanical clock, and it is described or named as the water-driven spherical birds, and this was created by Yixing. So what will happen to that type of mechanical clock? The water is steadily dripping on a wheel that made a full revolution every 24 hours. So tingnan natin later on yung kanyang picture. During the Cosmic Empire, Su Song improve and enhance as well yung ating water-driven spherical birds, or the world first mechanical clock, and they believe that this is considered to be the ancestor of the modern clock. So you see, there's a big impact, definitely this invention of the Chinese civilization. And aside from the the water-driven spherical birds, or the world first mechanical clock, when you talk about tea, as we all know, tea is very popular around the world. So the first one again to introduce the concept of tea is the Chinese civilization. So the first one, the first person who tried this tea is actually the Chinese emperor, Shen Nong. So it's very amazing to think about it, that the first one to taste is no other than the emperor during this ancient time. And the inventor of the shredder of this on how to make now the or how to turn into small pieces yung ating dried leaves or dried petals of flowers to make tea is actually unknown. So they don't found or found out who is the first one to invent the shredder of the creating of this tea. But again, the tea is very popular. That's why Chajing is considered to be the world's first scientific work of tea production. So Chajing yung description, or let's say the name of what we call this one, the first scientific work of tea production. So this is now the first mechanical clock. So that is again moving 24 hours. So it's the very first type of mechanical clock. So if you try to look at it, it's really similar, or there is a similar feature of the feature in the structure of the modern type of the wall clock, or the other mechanical clock, or the modern clock that we are actually using. So that is pretty amazing. And we also have the tea. So tea before also is used for or used as a medicine, so there is a medicinal use of this tea, because the tea is also made out of what you saw, made out of either dried leaves of let's say herbal plants, and that's why it is also used for as or considered to be a medicine during the ancient time. And until now, no, they believing that the tea is used as a, let's say, for cleansing or for a believe that it has a better way of or better impact, no, to our human health or to our body. Okay, so that's the tea, and then the world's first mechanical clock. And aside from this mechanical clock and then tea, Chinese also is the first one who have what you call this one enhance, no, improve the use of metals before. And so Shi Wu Huayan is the first famous metallurgist who wrought iron and then cast iron during this during this time, no, so the early time. And steel making, okay, steel making and then iron smelting. So that's why they come up with the different tools and then weapons out of iron and then steel. And aside from this steel making and iron smelting, porcelain. Yes, no, porcelain. So Chinese civilization or Chinese is very famous as well to what we call this one, the concept of porcelain, and or who invented porcelain. So porcelain is usually produced in the extreme temperatures of a kiln, no. So it's kiln. It's like a little cooking cave, no, wherein they're going to put a very high fire, and to have a very extreme temperature, and then they're going to harden, no, this type of material or the porcelain in that particular kiln. Okay, but then after the creation of the porcelain or invention of porcelain of the Chinese people, during the 1708, German physicist German physicist Schönhausen, and I don't know if I pronounce it properly, come up with the very first type also of a European porcelain. Okay, so again, the German or the Europeans was influenced by the Chinese people. Okay? So this is now the example of steel making, no, or then iron smelting or sample products. And aside from weapons and then tools, we also have porcelains. Okay, so those are an example of porcelains. Yeah, and this is the porcelain of the Chinese people, and this is the porcelain of the Western or the European. So more on like a figurines, no, more on figurines actually yung Western compared on the porcelain of the Chinese people. So you can see the difference already, no, of the porcelain of the Western and then the Chinese people. Yan. So aside from those, we also have the first type of direction finder, no? So this is the first well-known compass, and that was made out of the made by or invented by the Chinese people. And as when we talk about the first type of compass before is not actually used as a direction finder. Now before, it is believed as in line to what we call the believing of what we call yung feng shui, no? So feng shui is considered to be more on they use the compass for favorable or unfavorable effects on designing or constructing buildings, graves, or maybe furniture. Okay, that's why a compass is not as really as direction finder, but more on believing the concept of feng shui. Okay, so para pampaswerte, no? That's why in other schools or other buildings in the all the type of or all the schools in China, sorry, still, no, existing pa rin yung compass na yan. And later on, they use already the compass. They created a modern type of compass to use now for navigation. Okay, so Chinese ships, and then for actually used for sail trade. Yan. So again, no, the first concept of compass is coming from the Chinese people. Okay, so it is another thing, no, aside from this compass, they come up with a mixture of charcoal, sulfur, and then potassium nitrate, and they come up with what we call a black powder, and then later on they call this one as a gunpowder. So they use for firearms and use actually for fireworks. However, no, before they made actually the black powder, it is actually accidentally created, no. Well, their purpose actually to in this mixing of charcoal, sulfur, and then potassium or potassium nitrate is to create a immortal potion. Okay, so that is actually the purpose or goal of those mixture. However, accidentally they created a black powder, okay, and or later known as a gunpowder. So that is the what you call so the irony, no, of how they created the black powder by an alchemist Taoist by the Chinese of the Chinese people. Yan. But the irony, no, they traded also gunpowder before. Yan. So as we all know, no, Chinese people is also traders, and they are trading in the Western countries or in the European countries. The irony is that European countries both, no, this gunpowder from the Chinese people, but then Europeans also use this one to develop cannons and then guns. The sad thing is that they use this one to fight against the Chinese people. Okay, so that is the irony, because as we all know, Europeans are trying as well to conquer, no, the land or the Middle Kingdom. And so that's why they use the gunpowder to strike down as well yung Chinese civilization. But then again, no, Chinese is having a very strong defense before. Yan. So this is a very first type of a compass. Yan. So para siyang, if you try to look at it, yan. This one is also having a what you call something like a considered to be an arrow, no? So it is pointing directed towards a maybe favorable or unfavorable signing, no, on constructing the building, or maybe constructing a grave and so on. Okay, so that is a first type of compass. And we also have the black powder. All right. So that is only sample A, used for cannons, for firearms, and then for fireworks. All right. Yan. For paper making and printing press, so we have mentioned them before when we talk about Egyptian civilization. They use the papyrus, but for Chinese civilization, they also have their own version of paper. And so paper making and printing press was one of the greatest invention or contribution as well of these Chinese people. Okay? And they are the first one, no, to invented the printing press. And so they come up with what we call the wood block printing. Okay? So engraving in a block of wood. And but it takes time actually. No, and this wood block printing is very expensive before, during this ancient time, and that's why they come up with another type of first printing press, no. So they come up with what we call a movable type printing. This time, this was created by Bishing, no, or Bishing. Yan. So this movable type of printing, what we call this one? It is way more easier because the letters are already been separated. Okay, so they can use it more, or they can move it easier. That's why it is called as movable type printing. So I'm going to present to you a picture later on. Yan. So the paper was created by Kai Lun, and this paper was extracted from a part of a fish net, and a part of it is a tree bark, and a part of, or a bits of rope, and then rugs. Okay, so they combine that one and then extract it and come up with a paper. Okay, and this paper making and printing press was very popular or well known in the Central Asia and then throughout the world, no. So again, Chinese people Chinese have a very great influence already during this ancient time. Okay, that's why, no, they are considered to be, let's say, one of the greatest civilization during the ancient time. Okay? And aside from this paper and then the printing press, and we also have Luban. And Luban, who created the very first type of an umbrella, and this was inspired by the leaf of lotus that was usually used by the children before, that is running or throughout the rain, or during the time that is raining. And he's have seen, no, the children who are using the leaf of lotus. So Luban is actually a carpenter, and that's why he come up with something and created the umbrella. Okay, so this is the umbrella, and this is now the wood block printing. Okay, so they are going to do it manually. No, they're going to carve yung letterings. So that's why it is very expensive, and it will take a long time. Okay, and then that is a sample of the wood block printing. Okay, and this is their movable type of printing press, no? So it is way much easier already because they're just going to move one by one yung ating letters. Yan. Okay, so that is the paper, and then also the what you call this one, the first umbrella. All right, and in the field of medicine, Chinese civilization or Chinese people is the first one who introduced the concept of acupuncture. But acupuncture. So not only China, but as well as the other Asian countries, no, like for example Thailand, Korea, and then as well as Japan, no. But the very first one who have this kind of concept during the ancient time is the Chinese civilization. So needles, later they use also battle or cupping, no, during this modern time. Okay, and neijing, or the classic of internal medicine of the Yellow Emperor, that is actually the description of the acupuncture, or the old description or old name of the acupuncture during the ancient time. And they found actually a remaining of needles that was used by this term neijing, from the tomb of Prince Lu Xing, and that is more than 2,000 years ago already. That's why they credited again to Chinese people yung first concept of the acupuncture. And as we all know, when we talk about acupuncture, it is used also to heal, no, or used as a cure disease or maybe body problem and so on. Okay, and for the Chinese people, they are the very first one who come up with first technology to predict, no, yung earthquake, no, or other movement of the grounds, or let's say, no, the first type of seismograph device. Okay, so that is how very knowledgeable as well yung Chinese people before. Okay, so the first one, we have what we call yung weathercock, and we also have the Hofing Didongyi, and this was made out by Zhang Heng. Okay, so tingnan natin. So in 1848, we come up already with the modern seismograph in Europe, but for Chinese people, they have their own version. Now we have the Hofing Didongyi, and we also have the weathercock. Later on, I'm going to show you the picture so that you will understand how it works, no, yung Hofing Didongyi. And rockets, during the Song Dynasty, it is created, no, or let's say it is believed that the Chinese people is the first one who created yung first type actually of rockets. Although when we talk about rockets, we already have a modern type of rockets, either the very very big one or the rockets that is used by the jets or used by the ships, no. But during the early time, during the Song Dynasty, they created rockets, and this is made out of paper tube with gunpowder attached to an arrow. Okay, so that is the first type of rockets. Now let us go back on the first Chinese seismograph device, no, and until now they are discovering actually on how they created this type of device. So we have there a dragons, no, and this is like a pot or a jar. So inside of it, there is a device who are detecting now the movement of the ground, or predicting now when and where is the occurrence of the earthquake. Okay, so this represents the different directions, no? So meron tayong northwest, north, south, east, all of the directions, no? So same as true with these frogs. So what will happen if there will be an earthquake? Let's say for example in the northern, so let's say for example this is a northern part, no, itong frog at saka itong dragon na to. So say there will be an occurrence of earthquake, and expected that there will be an occurrence of earthquake in the northern part. A metal ball will fall down, no, will roll inside this dragon and will fall down through the mouth of the dragon and will fall down on the mouth of the frog, and it will sound. Okay, and that is a signal that there will be an earthquake in that particular northern part of the land, no? So that is how amazing actually the seismograph device of the Chinese people during the early time. Okay, that's quite amazing, no? Let's say the concept of physics, and then a little bit of other concept of other sciences. Okay, so they are still wondering, no, until now. Some scientists cannot really explain how they come up with this type of device before, no, and that is how very knowledgeable or how smart as well yung Chinese people during the early time. Okay, and this is the weathercock. Okay, so we can still see that one, no? So we still find their full directions, and it is considered to be a seismograph device because it can detect, no, yung strength ng wind, okay, yung direction ng wind. Okay. And we can say that there will be typhoon because of the strength of the wind, and so on. Okay, and this is the first type of rockets. Yeah, so it's like a rockets before, but the rockets that is used during this modern time, no? So it's attached in a sphere, okay, so made out of paper tube, and it is used for during the war, no? But before, it is actually used to drive away, no? It is actually used to drive away bad spirit. Okay? That is the use of these rockets before, but then later on it is used as a weapon already. Alright, so that is the example needles for acupuncture. And bronze, so a while back we mentioned about the metallurgists, no? So iron, this time the use of bronze. So during the Shang and Zhou dynasty, they use already the concept, or they use already the material which is the bronze, no? And usually used for creating weapons, tools, and for ritual vessels, okay, military or for entertainment purposes. They have a different inscriptions and then patterns in these different weapons and then tools. That's why, like Japan, Korea, and so on, if you try to look at their swords, no, or other weapons, there is a engrave or inscription, no, in that particular handle or in that particular sword. So they have their own version of inscriptions and then patterns. And we also have the very first kite, no, or the concept of kite before was created by the Chinese people. Okay? And this was known or described as muyan. Yan. And it is actually a wooden kite, and this is usually used, or the purpose of kite before is very important, no, because it is used to send message, and it is also used to measure distance and testing as well yung wind, and used for signaling, and signaling if there will be a problem, and or maybe there is a unusual thing that is happening in the land, and so on. Seed drill and then row crop is also being invented during this time for farming or for agricultural processes. So this is the seed drill. Okay. So if the Greek civilization come up with their yung one-wheel transportation, no, for agricultural process, for Chinese people, they have what we call the first type of seed drill technology. Okay? And that is the also a type of what we call this one, by the use of the bronze, no. So they come up also with a cart before. Yan. Okay, so helmet, tools, weapon. Okay, so yung use ng ating bronze. Okay, and this is an example first type of a kite. Okay, but this is now the traditional, no, this is the very first type of kite before. Yan. So in modern time, yan, nagkaroon ng mga ganitong type ng kite. All right. So aside from those, in 1498, and in 1498, toothbrush, no, a very first type of toothbrush was invented by the Chinese people, and it is made out of horsehair and then wood or bamboo, or attached to a wood or a bamboo. Okay, they are also the first one who introduced, no, the concept of paper money and then coinage system. Okay, so imagine again, no, as we all know, Chinese people also the ones who are introduced here in the Philippines yung concept as well ng paper money. Okay, although yes, on the early colonizers already have this kind of concept, but as well as the Chinese people, no? So the Chinese people have this paper money in coinage system. So the paper money is privately issued bills of credits or exchange notes, no? And considered to be an exchange certificate. It is like a bank check, no? So if you have seen already, or if you have hold already a check, or yung cheque na tinatawag natin in a bank, yan, similar of this paper money that was used before, no? So they can use this paper or this paper money in the other town or in the other city to exchange, not for food or maybe for money. Okay, and one of the greatest invention or infrastructure, I should say, of the Chinese people is no other than the Great Wall of China. And as we all know, the Great Wall of China is still existing until now. In fact, no, astronomer described this Great Wall of China is the only infrastructure or human-made infrastructure that can be seen outside planet Earth. Okay, so that is this description actually of these astronomers, no, or astronauts. Yan. And it is considered to be, no, one of the largest infrastructure made out or built by the Chinese people. So largest and extensive infrastructure, and this is also why the Middle Kingdom reigned a very long time, and they are considered to be a longest civilization because of this creation of the wall, no? Because it is considered to be a defense wall as well before. Yan. So this is an example of the very first type of toothbrush. Yan. So similar, no? One of the bases of the modern type of toothbrushes during this modern time. Okay? So that is how you see, no, the impact of the invention of the Chinese people. Okay? And this is an example of the paper money. Okay? And this is now the Great Wall of China. Ayan. So that's why, no, Chinese civilization or Chinese people have a very big impact or influence in our society during this modern time, because of this lot actually of their inventions and then contribution, no, in the field of science and technology and other concepts, no, that they have already introduced during the ancient time or during the early time. Okay? So it influences now or shapes now our society during this time. Okay? So that is the different important contributions of the Chinese civilization. And if you have any other questions or clarifications, feel free, no, to comment below in this video, or maybe to use our group chat, and or maybe you can send me message to our inbox of our canvas. And so thank you so much now, my dear classmate, for joining me in this last part of this ancient civilization, and stay safe. God bless everyone, and I see you in the next video.